Typically, if you've run a business before, you should be able to buy a business. If you've been an exec at a company before, you should be able to buy a business. If you've done real estate before, you should be able to buy a business. I want you to be able to buy your first business that either supplements your salary if you want to exit your company or supplements your expenses.
Let's talk about your contrarian thinking program. So you have this program, and by the end of it, you hope that these people have 12 different income streams after 1 year. And I read that the average millionaire has 7 to 10 income streams. So it's no wonder why you want people to have these multiple income streams. Can you help us understand what this might look like, having 12 different income streams? How is that manageable? I know you mentioned, some things previously in terms of having operators for some of them, but can you just walk us through how that's manageable and give us an example of what that looks like?
Yeah. So, what I really want people to do is learn the framework. So,
Okay.
I want you to be able to buy your first business that either supplements your salary if you want to exit your company or supplements your expenses. And so, I want to teach people how do you buy a small business that can either replace what I'm making right now or that can replace my expenses so that I can continue to do the work if I want to. At my job, but I never have to. I can have my "fuck you" fund that's funded from something else. And so that's the first step. And then what you'll quickly realize is once you buy a business, and the average person who goes through our program buys a business typically in 11 months, and that business is somewhere between $100,000 to $10 million in total revenue.
Mm.
And we screen people because not everybody should do this. And so we screen them to kind of make sure, are you sure you're ready for this? And what I found is what happens is you'll buy your first business. And then you'll spend anywhere from 90 days to a year and a half, kind of stabilizing that business, running through it. But then you're going to add different, what I call revenue lines that could be income lines to an individual through your business. So you're going to say, all right, I bought a laundromat and now I want to increase the revenue of the laundromat. So I'm going to add vending machines as another revenue line. And then because I see how that works, I'm going to add vending machines for soap. And then because I see how that works, I'm going to add a wash and fold service. And then I'm going to add a delivery service. And what you're basically doing is you're diversifying your revenue streams through one business. So there is a focus or a
Mm.
through line to your business, but you're being really smart in acquiring your new profit centers. And that's something I wish I learned earlier because I always thought you had to grow organically. Like I've got to go and I've got to get this one customer or this one client. But what if instead you could acquire the clients and wrap them up inside of your business? And that's what I tend to do again and again. But the only caveat I would say there is that I do think you need to focus on skills early as opposed to
Mm.
income. So I have a model that says learn, earn, invest. Most people go, I want to invest. I want to invest and make money. But really what you have to do is first you have to let's say you wanted to buy a boring business. You need to spend a minute learning about buying a boring business. 90
Mm.
days, some people take a year, but let's say that 1 year trial period of really learning how to execute on deal making. And while you're doing that, I want you to earn money and I want you to learn how to increase your earnings potential. So, whether that's negotiating for a higher salary, or whether that's getting a better job with a better salary, or whether that's doing commissions. And after you've done those two things, then I want you to use that money and I want you to invest it in something or invest your time or expertise. And so, that's kind of how I push people to start thinking about diversification of revenue lines.
Mm. That seems like a really, really smart framework. Something that I want to follow up on is you mentioned that you're screening people and making sure they're ready for this. So, what is a typical profile of someone who might be ready to have a boring business look like?
There's I was counting them the other day. I think there's 6 paths to buy a business with $0. So let me share that with you first, and then
Sure.
it'll kind of tell you what type of person can do what, because it differs. So if you wanna buy a business with $0, you can buy a business, basically by using seller financing. So you can say, "Hey, I'd really love to buy your podcast. You don't wanna do it anymore. How about I take over the business? Your business makes 100K a year. I'll pay you 300K for the business over the next 3 years. You take all the profits, I'll grow the business. Anything that's the delta is mine, and I own the business at the end of the year." So that's called seller financing, super common. Then you have revenue share. So you might say, "Hey, your podcast is doing awesome, but I bet you could monetize it better. What if I came on board and whatever your podcast is making right now, I don't want any of that. But if your podcast, if I could make you an extra 20% or an extra $200,000 a year, I'd like 25% of that in perpetuity. And maybe we could negotiate for a percentage of your business, like 5% of your business. And so I don't have to put any money in, but I've just given you $200,000 more for just my sweat equity and revenue share. And you could do that
Mm.
same thing with profit share. You could be like, I'm not going to do it from top line revenue. Instead, only when you put dollars in your actual pocket will I take 20% of the profits that I grow you. And I'd like to take a small piece of equity in the business too. So I get to continue to be paid in perpetuity. And then you could also say, okay, what about if you are a business right now and you have assets? So let's say you have a trucking company or something, you have a bunch of trucks. Why don't I go get a loan on the trucks? And because I do a loan on the trucks, I can buy your business with this capital. And then the fifth way would be like, I go raise money. I hear Codie's got some money. I hear Alex and Layla are flush with cash. So I'm going to go ask them for some money. I'm going to buy your business. They're going to take a part of it. I'm going to take a part of it. And then the last one is like an asset sale. So like, oh man, a bunch of businesses are going over under with COVID. What if I reached out to my other podcast friends that aren't going to do their podcasts anymore, and they actually had some sponsors and info products that they're just shutting down? What if instead I kept those going and I just paid them a commission on them? So I'm going to let them have 10% of those products for the next 3 years, and the rest goes to me, and I'll run it all. Don't worry about it. Uh, and so we could do an asset purchase. And so
Mm.
when the people come into the group, what I say to them is it really depends on what type of purchase you're going to do. You could buy a business tomorrow with very little risk if you do a revenue share, a profit share, an asset sale, right? There's no skin in the game. And if you go bankrupt or the company fails or anything, you're not going to go bankrupt. You're going to be fine. Now, if you're going to put your own money on the line or get a loan, we need to make sure that you have enough money and understanding of running a business so you're not going to go under. And those are the
Mm.
things that I try to talk people into. Typically, if you've run a business before, you should be able to buy a business. If you've been an exec at a company before, you should be able to buy a business. If you've done real estate before, you should be able to buy a business. And if you have some excess cash so that no deal can ever go sideways enough and ruin what you momentum you already have, you could buy a business. But I'm really
Mm.
conservative again because I hate risk. So I'm always like, please, dear Lord, just don't come over even and talk to me if you're not ready to do the work because it does take some.